listening to Movie Reviews and More with Brian Sebastian, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More, and you're watching live around the world. And for whatever reason, I think it's going to be a nice, subdued, comfortable show talking about everything. I'm glad to have Zorianna get back here again.
As opposed to the chaos that it usually is, Brian?
Of everything that usually happens, yes, exactly. Let me thank my sponsors really quickly. I want to thank Stair Cosmetics from Santa Barbara. Delane Mazzario will be down here soon. I want to thank everybody from there because of all the stuff that's been happening in Santa Barbara.
Oh, and they have great mascara, so that's,
well, yes, and she's coming back to do your makeup. Qingtao, got to thank them. The Restroom Kit out of Maryland, they're coming in March 6th, Bill and Sophia. Tree Sisters, obviously Sea Shepherd. We have to thank them, obviously, too.
You're welcome.
Linda Steele from Chicago. She's coming in February 27th, Provincial Vodka and No Hate. And we also have Monster Products and Keller Williams now, too, which is good. Let's get into everybody. That's me saying this stuff. Let me turn my volume down on this. So, on everything, here we go. Mike, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Mike Szymanski, film critic and journalist.
Interesting.
It is interesting.
Dr. Nan.
I am Dr. Nancy Sutton Pierce, and I'm a clinical sexologist and a sensual yoga therapist.
All right, let's get into this.
Fancy title.
Well, she has much more to that, too.
I guess.
You want me to keep going?
Keep going.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. Well, I'm also a registered nurse and a health educator and a radio talk show host and a sex and sensuality author. And I have a new advice column now on a news cafe called Intimate Concerns.
So what do you find that people tend to have as recurring intimate concerns?
She's going live with her stuff, so.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. What are some of the recurring? I imagine that most people's problems are similar, and so what would be a recurring issue that you find that people tend to ask you over and over again on that topic?
I think I'm asked by men, how do I get my woman to want more sex? And I'm asked by women, how do I reconnect to my sexual desire? Those are probably two of the most common avenues that I go down with people.
And why do they ask those questions?
Because they're frustrated with lack of both. You know, men don't feel like they're getting enough sexual attention, and women, they lose their desire for many reasons that they don't understand or they haven't been educated. Part of that is normal, and part of it is educating the men about women's sexuality. So I educate both, individually and together.
Do you usually find that it's the woman who calls to make that appointment or the guy?
The guy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it interesting when movies like 50 Shades of Grey come out, all of a sudden people's interests spike up?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, that one took BDSM to a whole new level.
You found that you got a lot more questions or clients at that time?
Yes, people wanted to practice, play with it, because all of a sudden it wasn't in the closet as a taboo. It was something that you could actually have a conversation about and go to a store and purchase products or buy books and not feel ashamed. Because a lot of our reaction in life is around guilt and shame. So if we don't have to feel guilty or shameful, then we can come out and play.
You know, one of the other interesting things about that is you also travel a lot, too. You know what it's like to be a travel blogger at one point. You travel a lot. Talk about that.
I do. I do groups and retreats, and I teach on cruise ships. I teach in Jamaica. I've got 3 trips to Europe coming up where I'm doing different tours for yoga and sensual education. To say, I work with couples, I work with singles. I work a lot with women on sexual awakening. So many women are repressed and depressed, and I help them.
Why? Is it an age thing, or is it as a result of childbirth, or is it just being in one marriage too long that things just kind of, you fall into these comfortable roles and you forget about the other ones?
I think all of the above, but then you add to that women's inability to feel free sexually because of fear of being slut-shamed, or either you're frigid or you're a slut. That nobody is saying, oh, you have a natural sex drive. because women have just as much sex drive as men, but men have a notorious attitude about boys will be boys and men want more sex, and that's not true.
I think
but women want more quality sex.
But if you're in a long-term marriage or relationship, why would a woman have fear of being slut-shamed when she's with one person?
Because of her own feeling about it. We slut shame ourselves. If you grew up in a very religious household where expressing yourself sexually or being curious about new things, wanting to keep it spicy in a relationship because you have to be creative to last the duration. So if you have these creative things that you want to try, and now all of a sudden you're feeling embarrassed or ashamed, and you can't go there, so you get bored, and then you get complacent, and then you pull back.
Michael, it's interesting where you come from, too. Talk about your background. Because it was good when you were over at UCLA. You wrote for USA Today back in the day.
Sure, yeah. And I also produced some shows with the adult industry reviewed all kinds of movies and
What kind of shows did you produce?
For the Gay Erotic Video Awards, and we had a lot of celebrities who came, like RuPaul. You remember that? And
back in the day, he introduced me to RuPaul. Who would have known that he would go on to do the drag show and be popular and win an Emmy this past September? Who would have known? But again, being at your house way back in the day and seeing a lot of the things behind closed doors at that point, people were mixing, but they just stayed in their own lane at that point.
Yeah. We talked about that, and Rue was at the time really struggling to stay sober and had his entourage around it. But it was great that he showed up at my birthday party.
So it was a good party. Who would have known?
Yeah.
But it was one of the things that I really loved was he used to teach at UCLA about writing. Talk about that.
Yeah. I was teaching journalism, and I did that for almost 20 years, and it came to the point where I was going in to teach something that wasn't really existing anymore. I mean, it doesn't seem like journalism does exist, and it's certainly impossible to make any money on it.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that case? How do you morph and continue to work without losing your own mind?
You try to get somebody on the internet who has a money-making blog or website that is of interest to you, and get them to pay you. That's the trick. And at one point, I even had a column that on dachshunds. I had a column on bisexuality. I had a column on multiple sclerosis. I had all these different kinds of columns that I was writing. So, yeah.
Dachshunds, multiple sclerosis,
and bisexuality.
Yeah, that's a varied beat.
You're very diverse.
Yes.
But you go back to those days where you were in demand. I mean, you're still on Warner Brothers list, thank God. But we would always see each other at a lot of the junkets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So at that point, everybody wanted you because you were that writer at that point.
Well, I mean, I was telling the doctor here about the days that we were backstage at the Oscars a lot of times too. You and I, and we, that was the time we'd see each other when we were just covering those things, and there was that era of movies that I just didn't get that were winning awards, like Country for Old Men and things like that. That just we were like, what is going on here? But
I when that won awards, I was like, it didn't make me go, what the heck is going on? I was fully on board with that movie winning.
Okay, well, good.
I thought you were going to say something like, I don't know, like something more obscure or something overly commercial, but that one just sort of seemed like the right fit for the Oscars at that time.
Well, it was the year that Titanic somehow beat LA Confidential.
I knew you were going to, Titanic. You can bring that up and be acceptable. Yeah.
Well, this year, so what do you think about this year?
I'm completely unimpressed with our selections. Nothing really stood out that blew me away and wowed me. Everything was just there were okay bits about everything.
I love 3 Billboards. I think that's the one that's going to take it. But
that to me was one of the more enjoyable ones. I'm also a big fan of the Florida Project, but I guess not too many people are on that bandwagon.
Or so.
You know what's frustrating about that is that you can't find it. I literally was trying to find it. I mean, unless you live in Los Angeles, New York, or Chicago, San Francisco, it's hard to go out and find a theater. I literally, the month of November, December, I was actually paying for a lot of movies. I was going to the ArcLight in Sherman Oaks and paying $17.95 to go in the morning to go see a movie. And I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. But I wanted to see a movie. Since I'm a movie whore, I couldn't help it. But I wanted to see those movies, and it was just frustrating because they're not playing where they're supposed to be playing anymore.
Well, also the different guilds who are having their award shows, some of those award show nominees don't even translate to the Oscars. For example, last Friday I was at the Editors Guild Awards, the Eddies, and in the documentary category, Jane won, but it's not even nominated for an Oscar.
That's interesting.
In the motion picture drama category, one of the films that was nominated was Blade Runner, and that one isn't nominated in the editing category at the Oscars. And you think that those guilds would sway the awards because presumably those people are members of the Academy and it would translate in that regard. But there was just it's just a lot of that kind of stuff where you can't even look at other award shows and try to even predict how it's going to go. Like Phantom Thread wasn't nominated for anything until all of a sudden, out of the blue, it comes out with all these Oscar nominations. And it wasn't a part of Critics' Choice. It wasn't a part of the Golden Globes. It wasn't, I mean, in my opinion, the editing was phenomenal on that one, and that was nowhere at all in the Eddie Awards on Friday night. So it feels like a little bit of a mishmash of a year where just everything just feels like meh.
And we talked about Shape of Water, which you just recently saw too, and how I know some people of a certain age who just find the interspecies sex to be very uncomfortable.
I don't know if I would call it uncomfortable, but it was certainly not the most romantic for me to watch. I don't know.
I thought it was beautifully romantic, but
I guess I just kept thinking, why is the water not leaking much more than it should be? I just had a hard time suspending that disbelief.
You know what's funny? I was thinking the same thing, matter of fact.
Well, because then it made me think of that movie with Jim Carrey and the Penguins.
Oh, yeah.
There was a whole other issue of like the house being frozen inside with like, and then there was like Paddington Bear when he was in the bathroom and then the tub comes out and the tub's sliding down the banister and water's everywhere. So there's just been like so many of these clogged bathroom stories that don't seem to do any damage anywhere else in the house.
You should never take Guillermo del Toro seriously. It's a fable, and
yes.
and it's a. But talk about that. I mean, how you.
How that translates to her sex therapy?
Yeah.
Have you ever had to counsel a sea creature and a human being together?
But she deals with people who are. I mean, you talk about it, but this woman was in love because the monster didn't see her as
as disabled or different or
that was what touched me was it did tap into how people with disabilities are omitted from sexuality and scenes of sex. So I think that the fact that they brought that in so beautifully and tenderly speaks highly of where we're becoming more open and inclusive. Because I've done a lot of work with people with disabilities, and nobody talks to them about sex. Their doctors, their parents, their teachers, they just believe that because they're disabled that they're not going to be sexual. And that's definitely not true.
What was that movie you guys will probably remember a few years back that starred John Hawkes as like sort of a Stephen Hawking guy with Helen Hunt
Sessions
as the Sessions, and she would have sex with him. And
very true.
Loved that movie. I thought it was fantastic.
Cheryl Cohen Green, who it was actually the sex therapist, is a friend of mine in Berkeley, and I sat and had dinner with her not too long ago. And her stories of her work are phenomenal. That woman has the biggest heart and the most compassionate sense of humanity of any person I've ever met. And I couldn't do that work, And so I see what people can do with people with disabilities, and it's just pure love, really. It's coming through. So I love that movie.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah, excellent.
talk about, you just, was it last Tuesday?
Oh, the Stella McCartney show.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm still smiling about that.
Yeah.
For you. Talk about that.
So Stella McCartney had her 2018 fall collection launch. It's funny because we're not even in spring and we're supposed to think about what we're supposed to be wearing in the fall. I'm like, that's when my kids will be in high school then. So I'm so not there yet mentally. But I work at Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, and we protect the world's oceans, and we have a navy of 11 ships all engaged in different campaigns, and we do anti-poaching work, and we protect a lot of species that are going extinct and prevent them from going extinct. And last summer we partnered with Stella McCartney on a backpack that she made especially in Sea Shepherd's honor, and 100% of the proceeds went to Sea Shepherd. Usually designers like 20% or 10% or the change goes, but in this case it was 100%. And what was special about this backpack was it was made entirely out of recycled plastic materials.
Oh, wow.
And Stella is a vegan, so she employs vegan leather. There is absolutely no animal products used in any of her designs, and she works with a lot of anti-plastic groups and organizations to convert plastics into things that are more useful. And so she invited a few of us Sea Shepherd collaborators to her show, and it was incredible. Not only was the place set up where she had live models walking around wearing the clothes, so you really got a sense of how they hung on somebody. So it's not just a picture, a tear sheet of a magazine. You actually see, people wearing the clothes. And then she had displays of the handbags and the shoes, so you could actually touch them and look at them. The food was all vegan. And then there was like the rock concert room. And
That sounded like an interesting room.
It was like Paul McCartney performed, Beck. I mean, it was crazy. Just like, and everyone is, everywhere I looked, there was a celebrity to my left, a celebrity to my right. I've never seen more Victoria's Secret models anywhere. I was just, with all the Oscar parties that we've attended and as star-studded as those things can be, this one was like times 100, and everybody was so nice. And
what did
everybody,
Katy Perry do?
Oh, God bless Katy Perry. I am so in love with this woman. She was just the sweetest. I'd interviewed her before when she did a documentary about her concert tour, and she was so sweet. And my kids at the time drew pictures of Katy for me to give to her during the interview. Now they're 10 and 14, so this was about 5 years ago. And we were talking about that, and in the middle of our conversation, she decided to FaceTime them. So she dialed, and imagine my kids' faces when they answer a FaceTime call from my phone, and it's Katy Perry. It was incredible. They died. And Katy was taking my phone and screenshotting photos, already thinking ahead, like to create a memory of the reactions and everything that I wouldn't even have thought to do that. Anyway, she was a class act. She was
And you're the coolest mom in the world, huh?
Yeah, well, just for like an hour. That coolness factor doesn't last too long. The next day it's like, do my laundry, Mom. It doesn't really work that way. But and then I met this stunning model. She was like 70 years old, gray hair, tall, elegant. I mean, she stood out in the room. You couldn't miss her. First of all, because there was such a young person's crowd, that to see somebody older, she stood out in that regard. But she was breathtakingly beautiful, and you just couldn't help but notice her. So I had to stop her, and I just said, "You are gorgeous." Like, I just couldn't believe, I'm just the way I'm talking now, I can't even finish a full-on sentence. I mean, this woman was stunning. I don't even know how to express that. So I started talking to her, and she said she was 70, and she's doing this CoverGirl contract, and she's the oldest CoverGirl at 70, and she was telling me that she's got kids and grandkids, and she's been modeling since she was 15. And I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "My name is Mae Musk." And I was trying to think of a mnemonic device, because I was like, I'm going to go home later and I'm going to Google her. And I was thinking, Musk. Okay, how am I going to remember? I need a mnemonic device. And I'm like, okay, fashion, yeah. And I said, Musk, like the perfume, right? And she goes, yeah. And then the next day, I Google, and Musk as the perfume. Try Elon Musk's mother, as in Tesla Musk. Like, there I'm thinking Musk perfume when it's actually Musk Tesla. So that was another highlight. I was like so close to genius greatness right there. I'm like, she gave birth to the man who founded SpaceX.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's really cool to know older people who are beautiful, and I had the honor.
And give birth to geniuses?
Well, yeah, but I recently got to go to Marsha Hunt's 100th birthday, and she has a documentary out about her and when she was blacklisted, and an incredible life, and it's going to be getting distribution soon, but it was amazing to go to her birthday, and she still is just hot. I mean, it's hot for a 100-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And Valerie Harper was there, and Norman Lear, and really, Exciting people, Jane Withers, all these old timers.
And they all still look amazing.
Yeah, they
all
do.
of those
They
women.
do.
I
Yeah.
mean,
What do you
look
think
at
that is? Why is that?
I don't know, because they probably didn't start Botoxing themselves when
It's
they were
not
in their
Botox.
20s. You know what I mean? Like they none of that was accessible, and I'm sure their faces just were as natural as they could be, and there's a certain grace and beauty that comes with that. I mean, meanwhile, kids as young as 14 and 15 are like Botoxing their
so
faces.
sad.
Like they're gonna just imagine how they're gonna look at 70, like completely different. I'm sure.
Plasticized.
Yeah. That's my theory, anyways. But who knows? Maybe food was healthier back then, not as polluted or hormone filled. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I think they were having more sex too. That keeps you happy.
It does. It's great for your
But
skin.
were they having more sex? I mean,
Absolutely.
Didn't talk
did
about it.
people
Absolutely.
do you find that in a different era there was more sex then than there is now?
There is less sex now.
Really?
People
There
are
was
having
always
less
more
sex.
sex then.
Why? Because it feels like kids are having sex younger and kids are more promiscuous sooner. That's what when you read those parental blogging websites.
That's what they want us to think. I think kids actually are having less sex. They're more sex savvy, but I don't think they're doing as much sex. I mean, the teen pregnancy rate is down. STIs are down. So,
Yep.
I mean, we are seeing the trend change, and I've got 4 granddaughters, 2 of which are teenagers, and my oldest granddaughter is 15, and she's just like, I'm just not, I'm not interested. We have very frank conversations, and she's like, I'm not interested. It's not really something I'm, too
I've been
soon.
finding that out through my friends' kids
Yeah.
also. For whatever reason, they know about it, but they're not interested, and nobody knows why exactly.
Is there more distraction? More things to do with your fingers?
Yeah, the boys playing video games all the time.
Idle hands.
That was a good one, Mike. That's probably the case. The guys, the kids are in downstairs or in the rooms playing video games, right?
Maybe they're too busy taking selfies and just
That too.
fetishizing themselves and their avatar, as opposed to living in a real world where they actually would be engaging in sex.
Well, I think you have a point there about the fact that they're on their phones all the time and they're texting each other. Their ability to interpersonally connect has become stunted. So we're going to have a whole new generation of people that don't know how to have a conversation. That can't sit here.
They're already there.
They can't sit here on a radio show and just talk and be. They would be wanting to pick up their phone and text the other person.
Yeah, I mean, I can't take a group of kids out to dinner without having them all be on their phones. I mean, and the thought of them putting it away is just horrible.
It's like cutting off their arm.
I mean, they all need to go to the bathroom together, and then they come out, and then later I look at the Instagrams, and there's like a billion bathroom selfies. So,
all right, I think they have to do some classy selfie classes.
Yeah. Yes.
That's funny.
Oh, that's tacky.
Yeah. It is. It's either or of their meal.
Right.
But they just want to let everyone know that they're at a restaurant. But I guess the bathroom restaurant is what appears in the photo, not the actual
funny.
restaurant. Yeah.
When you were teaching at UCLA and you were winning a lot of awards for your writing and stuff like that, what do you think those awards got you?
Nothing.
Now, the reason I asked that, because I've heard this from many people. It's nice to have the accolades of accepting and winning these things, but how does that get me my next job, right?
Well, I mean, I think maybe they did help me get some jobs, but the joke is I could take in any of those awards and try to get a cup of coffee at Starbucks, but no, you couldn't actually.
That's sad. That's really sad, because I always looked up to, I can't write to save my life, but I always looked up to you writers for these things like that. So it is a lost art, and I don't like that.
Well, hopefully people will still appreciate good writing, and I think the problem is that because of the internet, they ask you to do it for free. Mm-hmm. So, but there are still books that are out there, and people do read, and they do appreciate good writing, so there is hope.
I also think that people know that when you put it up for the internet, you can change it if there's a mistake, so you're not as invested on handing something in that's
polished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's totally
because
true.
there's a sort of like, I can fix it, I can correct it. If someone complains or doesn't like it, then I'll adjust it.
That's why there's so much diarrhea on the internet. I mean, it's just people just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nancy, when it comes to your writing, what are you looking at these days? What entices you?
I like to talk about what's happening in people's minds and their lives, that helps other people realize that they're not alone. So a lot of my work is around those topics where people will. I just started this advice column, and so people will write in with a problem, and sometimes I'll tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit more general, so that person's not identifiable. But people all have the same concerns. We all have the sex drive. We all have relationship issues. We all want a happy, healthy life. And so when you can bring those things to the forefront and give people a sense of commonality, there's a peacefulness that can come with that. And then you're more able to seek help, or at least communicate what you really need to your partner or to someone.
When did you know that this was an area that you felt that you were really good at, and that you could actually help people? Because I imagine you have to have a certain amount, like a particular personality. You can't get overly excited as you're speaking, or perhaps you can't be too overbearing, because it is a sensitive topic where you have to maybe hold back a little, or be very calm or nonplussed, just so they don't feel embarrassed?
Well, I've been a nurse for a long time, and I've done a lot of different things in healthcare, from obstetric nursing to outpatient clinic, and then I ran an outpatient diabetes center. And as a diabetes nurse specialist, since 50% of men with diabetes have some sort of sexual dysfunction, I had to become very comfortable talking about sexuality with my patients. And you just have to be matter of fact and compassionate and non-judgmental, and be able to bring those topics up. My husband calls them the sensitive topics, And so I just got very good at that. So even before I got my doctorate, I was asked to write a sex and relationship column for an online magazine, because I just have a comfort with that topic. It doesn't fluster me. I can say anything to anybody, and anybody can tell me anything, and it doesn't freak me out.
Yeah.
Especially now, after going through school. Nothing surprises me about human behavior or human desire.
I didn't know about the diabetes. Mm-hmm. I didn't talk about that. I didn't know about that.
Well, I'm the older I get, the more complicated that my bio becomes. So, yeah, I did that for 13 years.
Interesting.
You mean you didn't know that 50% of men have that issue, or you didn't know about her being in it?
Yeah, about that issue. I had no idea about that.
Okay. And women also, but nobody talks about women's sexuality in the health world. It's all about men's sexuality. So
that's so funny, because my current TV addiction is The Handmaid's Tale, and I just finished watching that, and I can't wait for season 2. And it fascinates me how in that puritanical society, they don't even consider that the man might be the one who's infertile. It's always going to be the woman's fault, no matter what. Right. And it also amazes me, as puritanical as they are in that world, that when the handmaids do have to conceive, there's 3 people involved, and that's just the most invasive situation that you could possibly have. And there's so many dichotomies in that. I mean, it's fascinating to me on so many levels. What do you think of that show?
Oh, yeah, I think it's a powerful depiction of a reality that still exists. And I can talk about that in a second.
Please do, yeah.
But when you look at how women have been thought to be property or chattel, as they were called, then it's no surprise that they would view impregnating a woman no different than impregnating a cow.
Chattel? So like cattle and child together?
Well, chattel was a term for property. So women were property, just like children were, and the cows were, and the land was, and they could be bought, sold, abused, destroyed at will. That we had no rights.
Yeah.
And so it's really been in the history of humankind a very short period of time that we've had any rights at all, and we're on a quick path here.
Yeah.
But then you look at, when you think about The Handmaid's Tale and how they treated women and how they always blamed the women. Look at some of the responses that are happening to the Me Too and how it's still blaming the women, still making, why didn't she say no? Why didn't she just leave? Why didn't she? Nobody's talking about why didn't he not do that? You know, why isn't he taking responsibility? So it's the same mindset, and it's all patriarchal, it's all misogynistic. It all goes back to that belief model that men were the beings and women were the chattel.
That series is so timely.
So timely.
Yes.
Unbelievably timely. It unnerves me at how timely it is.
Yeah. We all need to be a little unnerved right now.
I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And it's funny, before you came in, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Which was interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad it's winning a lot of the awards, too.
Well, that's the whole reason I started watching it, was at the Critics' Choice when it won its 18th award. I was like, okay, time to do my free trial Hulu and see if this is something worth investing. Well, once I started, I couldn't stop.
Absolutely.
I couldn't stop.
And that's the whole thing. That's what we were talking about. When we started, you were talking about, I didn't go to that junket, but we were talking about that junket where you went to Australia for Scooby-Doo, where there was less channels and things like that.
Yeah.
So you've got Hulu, you've got Amazon Prime, and these really, really good, well-written shows. So I've got to catch up on that too. But she does definitely deserve it. So
yeah. Well, speaking of this patriarchal society and women as chattel, I do think that it also translates to how we treat our animals. And if I can take it back to Sea Shepherd, for instance, we often deal with campaigns where our oceans are being decimated because there is a lack of respect of how our wildlife contributes to our society. We're decimating the shark population, and it's an apex predator, and it keeps the oceans healthy by preying on the weak. So everyone in the ocean remains strong because the sharks prey on the weak. And if we decimate sharks for stupid things like shark oil or shark fin soup and stuff like that, or squalene in our lipstick, which is shark oil, then we are decimating the environment and we are killing our oceans. We have cultures like Japan who are slaughtering dolphins and selling them to places like SeaWorld. They're slaughtering whales for research, and that's decimating our oceans. It's large predators that we're decimating. Turtles, people are, 1 in 1,000 turtles is going to make it to adulthood. And there's a big problem with turtles going up and they're nesting on beaches, and those nests are unearthed, and those eggs are used as delicacies for tourists to eat, or they will kill the turtles for their shells and things like that. And so it's just, again, it's a lack of respect for other living beings who have as much right to be here as us. Actually more, because they were all here before we were. So if anything, it's like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. It's
exactly.
We are not. We have such a centralized view of ourselves and how we fit into the world, And, some of these creatures were here long before us, and they will be here long after we kill ourselves with the amount of damage that we're doing.
Well, didn't our president just say that there's records being broken in the Arctic or something stupid like that?
Well, he did say that all sharks should die. That was what the porn star said, that he told her during Shark Week, that he would never donate to any shark charity because sharks are horrible and they must all die. And
another brilliant statement out of the Oval
But
Office.
in a way, that, which was revealed last week, in a way that ended up being a blessing in disguise, because the amount of donations that we have received since that statement came out has been incredible.
Interesting.
We have gotten so many new donors that have previously never heard of us, didn't know about us, who have been donating money. And on the note that they put, some people have been saying like shark trumps sharks or things like that, but under the referral section, they were saying like that Donald Trump referred them, and you can also donate in honor of someone. So they've been donating in honor of Donald Trump.
Great.
Wonderful.
So this has been out, I think, in the media for about 7 days. These comments and so we've been benefiting from that. And there's another shark conservancy where you can pay to name a shark and they'll tag it and you could track it. Well, today it was announced that someone paid $2,500 to name a shark after Robert Mueller. and they can track it on their app once they tag it. So, all of this is creating an awareness for sharks and for organizations like Sea Shepherd that defend and protect them. So,
And talk about the
That's
benefits
funny.
like you usually do, why sharks are needed.
well, sharks are needed. Like I said, they're an apex predator, and you should not be afraid of them. First of all, they're very shy. They're not interested in human beings at all, and the ocean is filled with all sorts of wildlife, and some are weaker and some get sick, and they can't move as fast, and those are the ones that the sharks can easily get. And then by eating those animals, then the spread of disease, if they're sick, doesn't go to the other species, and so the oceans are kept healthy by sharks. There's all sorts of different types of sharks. My favorite are hammerheads. I think they're so beautiful, and to me they're very special because they have this 180 view, because their eyes are set so far apart that they can scan anything a lot better because of the way that their field of vision. And everything that they do is based on electromagnetics. And so they can sense currents from living creatures, and that's how they know where their prey is. And now that's a superhero power I wish we could have. And the reason
Aquaman.
they're shaped like a hammer is because they love to prey on stingrays. And stingrays like to hide underneath the sand at the bottom of the ocean. And so they literally take their hammer head and hit the ocean floor to unearth the rays, which they can sense are there by using their electromagnetic superpowers.
Wow.
So sharks are great. They're just so fascinating to me. I love them.
You guys learned something today.
That's awesome. So if you want to donate to Sea
Exactly.
Shepherd and keep those sharks going, you can go to seashepherd.org. We've got a donate button, and you can donate one time. You can become a monthly recurring. You can shop at our e-store. Proceeds go to our campaigns. There's lots of ways to do that. So thank
Tell
you,
them
Donald Trump.
sent you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Credit the big,
Keep the
the big
donations
Cheeto.
going up.
Yeah.
Talk about, there's been, coming up, Black Panther. There's been a great interest on that. They had a premiere last night in Hollywood. People are really talking about this film.
Have you seen it? There's a screening
I've not
tonight.
seen it, but
The people who can't really talk about it, who've been talking about it, they all are raving about that, which will be interesting. But online sales for Fandango and everything have been through the roof, so I look forward to seeing that.
But don't you think every Marvel movie has online sales through the roof?
they
well,
do. Yeah.
but this is the first black all Marvel movie, so that makes it different. Their marketing campaign, I think, is good. I haven't seen it yet, so you going to see it tonight?
I don't know if I'll make the screening in time from here.
Oh, yeah.
It's on the Disney lot, so
Of course.
the other way, and it's rush hour traffic, so
Yeah.
I don't know. But no, I want to see it. I love Lupita Nyong'o. I think she's
absolutely.
fabulous.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
I love Michael B. Jordan. I mean, they really have a fantastic cast. They really do. And it really does look good. I'm more interested in seeing how it integrates into the Marvel universe as a whole, because they really have a way of connecting the dots so well that
At the end of every movie.
yeah, at the end, yeah, because they make you sit through the whole thing.
And
Yeah,
all the credits. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
Nancy, in between them having sex and stuff like that, when you get a chance to go see movies, because you are traveling a lot, but you are on cruise ships a lot.
I am on cruise ships, but I'm teaching, so I'm working and then trying
What's your
to
nude yoga?
I do nearly naked yoga. It's nearly naked. I don't teach naked yoga, but people can be naked if they choose. It's nearly naked. Because there are just some things you just don't want to see in certain angles. So that's all I got to say about that.
Are there any movies that you think are that have helped the sexual movement, whatever that however you define that movement? And are there certain films, do you think, set back the movement?
I think 50 Shades actually helped the movement tremendously because it just put that conversation open. I mean, you think about the numbers of just regular housewives that were reading that book and talking about consent. Because I work a lot around the world with the consent concept. And the BDSM community has the best, most complete consent process of any other arena I've ever seen. And if we can extract that piece out and bring that into the vanilla world, I think we'd have a lot fewer of these Me Too moments.
Yeah.
And so that's a big one, I think, is I use the 50 Shades to kind of grab people's attention, and then I bring it right into consent and how to ask for what you want specifically.
Yeah. And any movies that you would just not recommend because it was completely like a setback, or just or created something that was false or not true that you have to now undo when people bring something up?
Not in the sexuality world. I'll have to think on that. I mean, there was one movie that came out that related to diabetes that I had to do a lot of damage control with teenagers. And that was with Sally Field and Julia Roberts. And the name of the movie is slipping my mind. It was probably in the 90s. And that she had diabetes. She was married. All right, we'll
feel
look
like
it
we can look this up right now.
Yeah, Sally Field, Julia Roberts movie.
And what was the misconception about diabetes?
About dying. That if you had a baby, you would die. And
if you were diabetic and had a baby, but so many women get gestational diabetes.
That's a different kind of diabetes. Okay. But Julia Roberts' character had type 1 diabetes, and her mother was deathly afraid of her getting pregnant. And there was just so much drama around her getting pregnant and having a child. And then, of course, she went into kidney failure and she died.
She did?
Yes.
You're not thinking of Steel Magnolias, right?
Yeah. No. Is that?
Well,
yes.
they were in,
Steel Magnolias. Yes. And so.
Interesting.
So I was during.
That's a play, also, right?
Yeah, it was a play first.
So the whole play, the whole history of that is just
wrong.
So at the time, I was teaching at diabetes camps for teens in the summer, and we had to do a lot of damage control with our teens because they were all deathly afraid and they couldn't ever have a baby.
Well, no teen pregnancy in that group.
Well, certainly they would think that they couldn't, and so then they would try.
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
just to be rebellious.
I see.
So anyway, so that's the other movie. I'll think on that. See which
That's
ones.
Interesting.
I mean, I would just talk about porn in general. That a lot of our mainstream porn is giving our youth their sex education and giving a lot of misconceptions about pleasure and women, pleasure in men, and communication and consent not being addressed.
Yeah.
So I just put out some questions on my social media feeds about asking what people's perception of porn and how it has influenced their sex. And a lot of people say, that's my education.
Yeah, there was a
That's
great
scary.
article a few years back called Sex Before Kissing. I forget what publication ran it, but it was about teenagers and how in the advent of the porn world, they think you just go from here to here, like from 0 to 100, and there, like, no one kisses. There's no romantic, slow lead up to anything. That's why the article was called Sex Before Kissing, because
Right.
they would have sex way before even having kissed.
Right.
It's all
And
it's
you
all
see
backwards.
that in some movies like that too, which I don't like.
Yeah, kissing's too intimate.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts on when you see something on this side, the mainstream side, on like a Harvey Weinstein, or, what are you seeing when it comes to that?
I'm seeing that this is well overdue, long overdue, and that I mean, there's still a little part of me that thinks, okay, I mean, there's a few people that are going to have to take a really hard fall to be an example. So hopefully they're picking the worst of the worst for that to happen. However, there's a lot of people like our gentleman that was named by the Grace. We have to talk a lot about dating and communication, because there's two sides of it. There's relationship communication, how do you talk to your partner after years and years, still consent, but there's a different body language awareness. You can't have that kind of body language or benefit of the doubt be involved in brand new interactions. And so we need to have a different level of responsibility, both men and women. I asked women, I did another survey about young women, would you go to a guy's place of residence on a first date if you didn't know this person? And how many women said yes? I was raised in a time where there's no way in hell I would do that. And my daughters wouldn't do that. And so I'm wondering where we're going that we would put ourselves at risk. But then the other side of it is, the reason we wouldn't put ourselves at risk is because we believe men are dangerous. So why are we believing men are dangerous? And that's the conversation that needs to be
So you're
gone
saying
through.
then, if they don't think twice about going to someone's house on a first date, then they don't believe that person is dangerous?
They're assuming they're not. Yeah. I mean, they would have to be. Otherwise, they would be more protective, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would have to be able to view danger around the corner. Like, I don't know this person, so how can I know whether they are or aren't?
So why do you think they don't have the radar that makes them need to feel that? I mean, maybe they if they genuinely don't, you can say, okay, well, what's wrong with that? Like, do you have to have your stranger danger radar on?
Well, I think a lot more women are being assaulted in those situations than have come out. So it's not going well for many of them. So you have to wonder, where are they getting their information? And, 80% of communication's nonverbal. So if you're only having text conversations with people, or you're online with them and you're never in their presence, you can't possibly know how to read that person.
Yeah.
You don't know what their normal.
Yeah. And all you have to go on are Facebook photos.
Right.
And everyone looks like they're having a great time. They're at events and dinners and parties. Everyone's smiling. So everyone looks perfectly safe and fine
Right.
and fun.
Right.
Like, why wouldn't you want to go to their house?
Right.
Because that meal they just posted that they cooked looks amazing.
Yes.
And all their friends on the beach around a campfire looks like they're all so well loved and bonding. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a false sense of safety
Yeah.
that's happened, and as much as I don't like to be a fear monger, I think there needs to be a little bit more etiquette, I guess, and a little hesitation. Get to know somebody first. Trust your body language. Trust your intuition. But we're not honing those skills, and I think we need to do more of that.
Make politeness cool again.
Yeah.
Chivalry.
Yes.
Hey, Michael, talking
Not
about getting to
chivalry.
know someone better, talking about Kevin Spacey, what are your feelings on Kevin?
I didn't know Kevin that well.
That's what everyone says now.
What? Distance, Kevin who?
Yeah, no, I've interviewed him many times, but and actually even broached a long time ago, around the time when he was outed the first time around, when
During negotiation.
Well, that article that said that my mom knows you're gay, and
Yes.
I think it was in Rolling Stone or something. We talked about it, and he's like, it's not anybody's business. But I'm sorry that people's careers are ruined, but maybe they should have thought about it a long time ago. I think the Aziz Ansari one is where the date went wrong is kind of a different story. But I think that all of these should be investigated. I think they should be tried. I think they should be, there should be they should be convicted of something if they've done what they're saying they're doing, and if their careers are catching up, or ending because of their bad behavior is catching up to them. I don't feel sorry for them. Sorry.
I agree. I've always said it was worse back then.
It must have been. Yeah.
We knew what it was a lot of the time.
Well,
There
and
was just
how many
no-
people are not coming out and talking about it?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and at this point in the game of the whole Me Too time's up is if you say something now, people are going to say, well, why did you wait like so long? Because the Me Too movement has been happening for like what, since the fall, right?
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Yeah. So now that we're, in February, why didn't you come out the first week that everyone was talking about it? So, and then if you don't come out, like the longer you wait, the more people will wonder why you didn't come sooner. But so it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like,
Well, and I've had people say, that people aren't thinking through their comments before they let them out of their mouth. People that are coming forward with events that have happened 20 and 30 years ago. Well, why didn't they come forward then?
Yeah.
Hello, let's go back to that era. Era. You realize that the men in charge at that time were born in the early 1900s, right? That's a different mindset than we have now. So there was no avenue to come out. If you came out, you were ruined.
that's it.
Instantly.
Exactly.
You're done.
Yep.
And
So-
it was, you could see a lot of that going on. That some of my friends who have not come out, I'm like, are you ready? I'll joke with them, are you ready? They go, nope, I'm not going to do it. And I understand why. Because sometimes I was there with them when they had someone to talk to, and they were the very, very sad, intimate moments. So I understand. I think everybody has their own time. That doesn't mean it's ever going to be easy because they're still dealing with it.
And it may never be their time in their lifetime
Exactly.
if that's what their personal journey is.
Yeah.
And
Well,
hopefully
hopefully they're feeling supported regardless.
Yeah.
But
But also historically, you go back. Many of the studios are named after people who were predators, and,
Right.
Of
and,
course. Yeah.
and Warner, for example, and there've been many books and stuff written about that, but it was just
You think
it was
MGM.
just part of the culture, which is unfortunate, and it's great that that's going to change. Let's see the next person who tries something like that.
yes. Yeah, that now we'll see if the movement is really having an impact.
Well, maybe men will just stop asking women out on dates, and that'll be the end of that. For
Or
a
shoving
while.
their hands down their pants.
Yeah.
I know of a woman recently that just went out on a date with a guy she met online. She's in her 30s. She's well educated. She's well informed. She's very strong-willed. And this guy at the date kept shoving his hand down her pants, and she didn't punch him. She didn't because it was so awkward. It was like surreal that this guy would keep doing this, and he was trying to be seductive, and finally she just had to separate from him and say, you're too sexually aggressive, go away. But he thought that was cool. He thought that was cute and flattering.
I also don't want men to not hire women because of things like that, or have that stigma that they shouldn't hire women now because something may happen. I think you have to be careful on that too.
Yeah.
And that's sad at that point. Nancy, give your website.
NSP.com or it's drnsp.com or Exotic Lifestyle Club.
Favorite countries you've gone to?
Well, I have an affinity for Jamaica.
Uh-huh.
I've been there many times, and I love the people, and I kind of am a Jamaica fan. So.
Michael, website?
I
What are
don't
you
have
doing these days?
Well, I write about education for LAschoolreport.com.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm also part of the International Press Academy. I'm the vice president, and we have the International Press Academy Awards coming up on February 11th.
Oh, nice.
We're going to interview. We're honoring Dabney Coleman. Do you remember him? Speaking of misogynist cads, but he was the famous one for 9 to 5, and yeah, he's going to be honored, and a couple of other, John Carroll Lynch, the guy who played Norm Gunderson in Fargo, he's going to win a first feature, and then there's a humanitarian award and other things. But we give out the regular awards, and actually our awards are a little bit more precursors to the Oscars than the Golden Globes, I think.
I don't think the Golden Globes are the precursors to anything at this point.
They're jokes, yeah.
And we always have to talk about Sea Shepherd website.
SeaShepherd.org.
Isn't that great that donations are up?
Oh my gosh.
That is awesome.
It is.
Good comes from
Yes,
some things that aren't so good.
Exactly. Come donate. Let's save those sharks.
Favorite pick for Oscar?
Oh.
Is it that difficult?
Well, it's that difficult because there's not one movie that I feel like I can get 100% behind.
That's true. Yeah, I thought it was going to be, the 3 Billboards at one point. Then I really still like I, Tonya, so I'm going to root for Alice and Jenny.
She's going to win for sure.
Yeah,
she was
that's
great.
a good one.
And I'll root for Ullman, because...
Gary Coleman? Gary
You'll
Coleman
be thinking
wishes
in the
you were
past.
rooting for him. Gary Coleman as Winston Churchill.
Exactly.
That's a tour de force performance right there.
And I think Frances McDormand and Sam Rockwell should both win for 3 Billboards, because Sam Rockwell's character just turns, from despicable to actually sympathetic, and he does an amazing job. So I hope he gets his comeuppance in that.
Yeah.
Anything you look forward to seeing out there when you get a chance? Because that's not easy for your travel.
Well, I'm going to see 3 Billboards.
Good.
And I can't wait for Black Panther. So yeah, I've got a few on my hit list here.
Good.
When I'm not traveling.
Real quick, social media. Talk about YouTube. You've got a lot of followers.
I do. I have, I think, 8,100 followers at this point. Like 5 million views on my stuff. But YouTube has changed, and so when I put up my videos and monetize them, within a minute, YouTube has taken the monetization off.
Yeah, I got sent an email saying that they're removing all monetization from so many accounts, and I don't know why that change has occurred, but it's something new that they're doing.
Yeah,
so.
I couldn't. There's nobody to get a hold of. Maybe I have a connection, but just trying to go through the channels to find out why. What is it about it?
I should forward you the one that I got sent, because
Okay.
it provided some sort of an explanation. I can't remember what it is because I'm not actively posting like you are, so it kind of went in one ear with the other. But
Okay, I'd appreciate that. That would be great, because
Mike,
we
you
need to
looking forward
fix
to
that.
anything?
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on social media?
I am actually looking forward to one of my friend Westmoreland has a movie called Colette that's very bisexual. He just texted me about it, and I'm going to a secret screening on Friday, family and friends screening. He co-directed Still Alice that Julianne Moore won the Oscar for.
Oh, is that the one where she was losing her?
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
Yeah, so he and his partner co-directed that, and his partner died of ALS after.
Yeah.
So Colette is the next one with Keira Knightley, and I'm looking forward to it.
I
So
wanna see that.
first Alice, now Colette.
Yeah,
He's got the women.
classic women.
Yeah. Oh gosh, let me know how that is.
I will.
That sounds
I will.
amazing.
Zorianna, looking forward to anything in between your busy schedule?
I really do want to see Black Panther, because I do want to see how a movie like that is handled and how it's integrated into the Marvel universe, and what it means for women and people of color, and what kind of barriers and boundaries will it break and cross. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see that.
It will be interesting.
Sounds like it'll be amazing, because these amazing people wouldn't have signed on to do it in the first place if they weren't on board with it. So I have the full confidence of the Marvel universe that no one will be disappointed.
Yes. Well, yeah, I agree. I think we all look forward to that, and it's Black History Month at that point too. But I think it's exciting that people are actually looking forward to going out and paying to see a movie, which is good. So we'll have the first good movie of 2018, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome.
All right. So we had a good time today talking about sex, right?
Little about sex.
And by the
we
way,
learned
you're right.
things.
It
Little
was
bit about-
subdued. Who would have thought that talk about sex could be subdued? But
If this is subdued.
You'll have to come to one of my retreats.
the nearly naked yoga.
Yes.
And a cruiser in Jamaica, one of the
Yeah.
All right, I want to thank everybody. Mike Szymanski, Zorianna Kit, Dr. Nancy, Sutton Pierce. We'll see you next week. If you see somebody without a smile, please give them one of yours. And I'm Brian Sebastian. And please keep tuning in to Movie Reviews and More, and we'll see you next week.
You're listening to Movie Reviews and More with Brian Sebastian, only on LA Talk Radio.